Hello everyone, it's Jamal Thomas. Welcome to the Progressive Soapbox. Let me check my sound. This one is going to be profoundly quick. Profoundly quick. Like, in the blink of an eye. It's probably not. My perception of time is a little wonky. Hope everyone is doing okay this morning. This one is going to be relatively fast because there's not much meat on this bone. A Norwegian politician has put Donald Trump up for the Nobel Peace Prize. Nonsense. This is nonsense. You, sir, are on something. Not on the good stuff. You, sir, are on bad stuff. Not stuff that is good for the human system. Not stuff that persists a human being for long. You, sir, are utterly insane to believe that Donald Trump should get the Nobel Peace Prize. The idea that you would put Trump up for it is a profound misunderstanding of what is taking place in the world and what Donald Trump is doing in the world. The person who put Obama up for the Peace Prize, let's interrogate that for the moment. Obama got a Peace Prize not because he deserved it, but because he was not George Bush. I think people should look back at that speech. The speech that Obama made was essentially this idea of a just war. While he was accepting the Peace Prize, it was a sad speech, seeing as he was there with this idea of, you are going to take on a new leaf of George Bush, and the last president of this country was so horrific and horrible from the standpoint of military. He murdered 1 million people when he attacked a country that didn't have weapons of mass destruction. Threw the world into chaos. So just to be a dick about things, we want to give you a Nobel Peace Prize as a break from the tradition of the last maniac, bloodthirsty maniac that should have been dragged before the Hague of the last administration. That's why Obama got the Peace Prize. Not because he deserved it, not because he did anything that he should have gotten it, only because he was a departure from the last maniac that was in office. The problem is, he wasn't a departure from the last maniac that was in office. In the last year that Obama was in office, he dropped 26,000 bombs. That is a magnificent number of bombs to drop on human beings. During testing of those stretches where they were analyzing the number of people that were hit and killed, 90% of those people were civilians. He was dropping bombs on people not knowing who was under those bombs. At that point, you can't even say that you're killing terrorists. You're just murdering civilians. That's the guy that got the Nobel Peace Prize. Donald Trump, the maniac who that Norwegian is talking about giving the Peace Prize to. While Donald Trump may be somewhat of a lefty from the standpoint of what he's proposing on North Korea, he has ramped up the number of murders that was taking place, even going beyond Obama, and then moves it to the CIA so people don't necessarily know the exact number of people he's been murdering. Nobel Peace Prize? Are you fucking kidding me? Do you know what's taking place in Yemen from the standpoint of us assisting that blood-soaked regime to murder those Yemenis? And even though Trump says he's going to stop supporting the people in Syria, he is still harboring terrorists. We were literally assisting terrorists, and we're still doing so now. He may not be overtly giving weapons in the same way the Obama administration was, but the last bastion of terrorism in Syria is under our protection and Israel's. And we haven't even gotten to the fuckfest of him moving the Jerusalem embassy. We haven't even gotten to that fuckfest. They've been soaked in blood. 2,000 people killed or shot. Hundreds murdered, including a dangerous baby that was sleeping that apparently a brave Israeli soldier felt was going to be a risk or threat to his life. Nobel Peace Prize, my ass. I don't even know the context to which you can make this argument that Donald Trump should get a Nobel Peace Prize. And I understand there are Trump supporters who are out there screaming Peace Prize, Peace Prize. And I suspect in part they're doing this because of Obama, and in part because there's some level of bringing down of tensions in North Korea. Newsflash, the world is larger than North Korea. And just because Donald Trump may be relatively good on one, the others, he's a fucking maniac. And he's just as bad of a maniac as Obama was on many of those issues. Not to mention Iran. The idea that a president can choose John fucking Bolton and anybody will use the term peace prize in their language is problematic. Mike Pompeo is another maniac who joked about murdering Russians and the number of Russians that were killed based on U.S. actions in Syria. This is not indicative of an organization that should get a peace prize. That's the point I'm trying to make to you. And just because he's brought down tensions on one, he has been ramping up the murders on others. What about the separation of kids from their mothers at the border? The picture that they showed was of Obama. That is true. But the kids being separated from their mothers is under Trump. This is a ghastly man. This is a repugnant man. And this is going to go down as one of the worst presidencies ever. Being good on one point does not make you some degree good on a lot of other points. So it's an absolute. And he has been horrific on a number of items. He has not been a force for peace in the world. Do not delude yourself on this point. He is propping up a potential war with Iran. And even though I agree with the hostilities being tamed down in North Korea, let's be honest, he propped up a lot of the conflict in this situation. I guess I'm making this point that the idea that you're going to give Donald Trump a peace prize or even put his name up in for a peace prize is laughable. It's utterly laughable. This is the story. This sad Norwegian man who doesn't necessarily know what the hell is going on from the standpoint of U.S. politics. I understand he may be looking at this in one very specific lens, but I guarantee you the people that are under the boot of the United States, with Donald Trump being the foot in that boot, and many of those people being killed in all these other countries when they're doing these bombing campaigns, that Donald Trump is essentially taking the brakes off. Nobel Peace Prize, my ass. Donald Trump nominated for Peace Prize by Norwegian politicians. Bookmakers have slashed the odds of the United States president winning the award after the summit with Kim Jong-un in Singapore. Christian Teinbrig Kideld. I'm bad at pronouncing Norwegian names, and I was in Norway. I'm sorry. Former Justice Minister Per Willy Amundsen said Mr. Trump had taken a huge important step in the direction of disarmament, peace, and reconciliation between North and South Korea. That I agree with them on. Both men are politicians with the anti-establishment Progress Party. A group of U.S. Republican politicians nominated Mr. Trump for the prize in May. The process of considering candidates for the honor is carried out in Norway, and nominations must be sent to the Nobel Committee before February. Mr. Trump's recent backing of the Norwegian and U.S. politicians therefore serve as the nominations for the 2019 prize. If Donald Trump gets a Nobel Peace Prize, that will, for all intents and purposes, makes the point that that Nobel Peace Prize is utter nonsense. It's bad enough that they gave it to Obama. Don't sully what the prize is supposed to represent and give it to another blood-soaked president. End it on that. This one is not going to be long. I'm going to end it here. I'm going to stay to this one. It's not going to be long because I know I fuck up and oftentimes end up in the weeds 20 minutes later. Give him accolades for the North Korean thing. He deserves it to some degree. He created to somewhat of a hufflepuff, but if he's willing to de-escalate, good. That's a good thing. He gets accolades for it. But let's not pretend the other shit is not taking place, and let's not pretend that the other stuff is in any way indicative towards peace in North Korea, towards peace in Iran, towards peace in Syria, especially since we've been helping terrorists and we're still to this day protecting terrorists in that part of the globe. And certainly not what's taking place internally in the politics of the United States, let alone this regime change stuff in Venezuela and even to some degree in Nicaragua, not to mention the support of Israel beating the shit and murdering and shooting Palestinians. This is not indicative of peace. North Korea, good job. The other stuff, no, not so much. Not to mention the drone murders. So I will end it here. You guys have a good one, I think I may have one more in me before I need to go. So I will see you guys shortly. Thanks, guys. I want to have a 420. That's what I want.